Hello, CSP Hot Hands fans. Brett here. I'm launching my book, How to Lead What You Should Have Learned in Business School, and I could really use your help. I'm putting together a group of people that will get early access to the ebook for free. All I ask is that if you love it, give it a 5-star review after you read it. You'd also get early access to the paperback launch price that'll be under $10. What I've done is taken my 17 years in the business and broken that experience down into bite-sized snippets for you. Almost every story and lesson I share is from my time at Cutco. Whether you're a Hall of Fame CSP, new events team member, or you're a manager, I think you'll love it. If you want in, go to linktree/CSP60 and tap the Join Brett's Book Launch button. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. Either way, thanks for being here. Let's start the show. What else happened there to cause that leap?
You will perform at the level of preparation that you have. You need to be script practicing at least an hour every day. You are not selling knives. You are selling branding. The knives are the vehicle. When it clicks, you're going to know because your business is going to shift. And I remember when it clicked for me because I went from selling 80 to 125 to 220 to 225 and all of a sudden 500, 550, 750. Another shift for me was one of my clients saying, Kristen, I already gave them a knife, so I gave them a gift card for their next gift. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong here? I've got to create systems for them in their business, because if you don't create a system for them, they're not going to do it. And what's going to happen is they're just going to be randomly giving people gifts, and before you know it, oh, I already gave them knives, now I got to give them something else.
Sounds like once you were like, hey, I'm educating them on how to brand, I'm not making a sale. Now it's like, hey, I get to create the narrative there while there's the value for your client there that you really are concerned with, of like, I don't just want them to buy, I want them to understand how this is best for them and for their clients. Thanks for joining us on the CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire podcast. My name's Brett Wiggins and I get to serve as your host. So what is a CSP? CSP is a Cutco sales professional. There are a lot of them out there, and they've all got a different answer to the question, why do you sell so much? Our mission is to find out the answer to that question from as many of them as possible. These next 60 minutes are designed for Cutco sales reps who desire to learn from our best in the field. So we interview top sales professionals from around the country with questions provided by their peers to make all that happen. 60 minutes of fire means we get straight to the point. Let's do it. Well, welcome to CSP Hot Hands, 60 Minutes of Fire. We're at episode number 19. I am so excited for our guest today. Miss, there's a snake in my boot herself, Kristen Staback from our Nashville office, Tennessee division. Anytime Kristen references a resource that's available to us, she'll share it with me afterwards so we can spend the majority of our time on the hard-hitting questions that you guys had for her. And we'll put those in the resource folder. So Kristen, if there is any moment where you're like, ooh, that's a great question, I've got a script or a template or whatever for that, just share it with me. We'll put it in a Google Drive for them. I do want to thank those of you who submitted questions for this episode. It would not be very fire without your help. It'd be more like, Kristen, did you ever eat like bagel bites or pizza bites growing up?
Yes,
Yeah.
with ranch.
Yeah. Okay. So it'd be kind of like if you microwave those and then went and did something else and forgot about them for 20 minutes and they're like lukewarm, just not as good, not as fire. So you ready to jam?
Yep. Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay. Kristen, how long have you been selling Cutco?
May will be the start of 15 years.
Wow. That's wild. That's great. This summer will be the first summer I train people who were not born yet when I started selling Cutco. I know.
That's crazy and cool all at the same time.
Sooner or later, like realtors are getting younger and younger. You'll be making sales to people who weren't alive when you started selling Cutco. So you're close. It's coming.
I know. I had my first 19-year-old this past year that ordered Cutco. I'm like, woo!
That's fantastic.
19.
What does a yearly sales breakdown look like for you over the course of your, like, what percent is, if you do any, I know gifting's kind of all together, but like what percent's business gifts, what percent CGC, what's marketing? How would you like break down that percentages?
I would say currently right now, not 90% of the sale, I'd probably say 85% is real estate industry,
Mhm.
not necessarily just realtors, but the real estate industry. I'd say probably another, the next 10 to 15, 10 to 12 is probably other industry gifting. That number will probably be increasing. And then I'd say the rest is just organic residential sales that come from our gifting clients or from past
Yeah.
clients.
Nice. Okay. And then what's your best year ever with Cutco from a CPO perspective?
750.
750. Wow. That's a lot of knives. It's a lot of knives.
Yeah, that's a decent
uh,
amount.
what other titles in life do you have outside of Cutco? Like any other businesses, leadership roles, anything else that you want to share title wise?
Um, well, I don't necessarily like to put titles on anything. However, if we had to put titles on
Yeah.
something, um, I am the owner of 360 Branding.
Mhm.
We are a promotional product business. So we do all things branded from apparel to, I mean, literally our slogan is you name it, we brand it. So I have that business as well, which
Love
I
it.
could not do without the amazing team that we do have. And then I am also co-owner of Best Day of My Life, which is
Oh,
a
that's right. I forgot you. Yeah, I forgot. Awesome.
yep. So I have that title. I am a glorified aunt. I have an amazing niece and nephew, and I would say I'm a pretty awesome sister, I think. But friend, sister, mentor, leader.
Awesome.
I lead a women's group as well. So, but we all lead together, really, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, love it. With best day of my life, any plans that you can share with anything that's coming up on that aspect? Because I love the whole mentality around that whole business and idea.
Yeah, there is. We actually just put inked a contract with a social media company to help consult with us because social media 5 years ago is way different than social media is now. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I really don't know anything. So I need help. So the mission behind Best Day of My Life is to really encourage people and help them step into living their best lives every day because
yeah.
you and I aren't promised, let alone today, especially not tomorrow. So like literally each day, can you make the best of today? And it's kind of hard to have a bad day when you're wearing a shirt that says Best Day of My Life, but
Kind of
so our mission,
counterproductive.
there's going to
Yeah, can't do it.
be right.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we're gonna have coaching with it, life coaching with it as well too. And then hopefully it'll be this year, but we'll have a nonprofit piece as well to it.
that's cool. So versus, I
That
don't want to
to
say just a t-shirt company, but you're really using that as a platform for more, which is awesome and not
coaching and
surprising. What's the last fun
yeah,
thing
coaching.
Kristen Staback did when she wasn't slinging blades?
I mean, I feel like everything I do is kind of fun in in a way. But I guess on a let's see, personal note, I gotta think about this. Um, where did I go? I mean, I love to travel.
You're in
I
Florida
don't know
right
that you
now.
would call this I don't know that you would call this fun. I am in Florida right now,
Yeah.
yes. Um, so I'm in much nicer weather than Nashville at the moment. I don't know if you would call this fun, but I've been on a health journey, and to me, this is fun.
Yeah.
So it's not like super exciting, like, oh my God, that's a
Well,
blast. But
dude,
like
I mean,
I've been
I'm
on
assuming there's been some results associated with that journey. Results in health are very fun. I would argue way more fun than going on a trip or whatever. So yeah, I can vibe with that. That's great.
yeah. So that's really been and I got my first PRP injection in my shoulder yesterday. So I'm excited to see the results to help heal my shoulder from stuff. So
Years of softball, volleyball, just
yeah.
completely, yeah.
Boxing, yes, all of that. Yeah.
It's funny how as I've gotten older, the agility stuff becomes more appealing because it's not like I would obviously love to increase my strength, but I just don't want to get hurt anymore. It'd be great to just not get injured. Um, okay, let's dive in. I always try to kick off with a question within the business or within your strengths that I'm like, I would be so upset if I didn't get to this one. So this was hard because there were a lot of great options. I think I try to pick like, okay, what's this person's, where are they thriving, but also what's going to help our CSP community most. And I landed on this. I want to know, this is a broad question. You can take it wherever you want, and I can kind of go a little bit deeper as you answer. But how do you feel you balance, and that might not even be the right word, so feel free to correct that word, but balance each week within life and work? I know boundaries is something that you're very, very, very focused on as well. How'd you learn how to do that? What were some of the things that happened to cause you to feel the need to create that balance between the two? And what does it look like in practice for you?
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So I think a part of it will stem, I mean, where I'm at now really stems from how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back at it, like I definitely was not a fan of like, you go to school, you want this, you got to get a job, you work for it. You want a cell phone when you're 15? Yeah, you got to pay for that, go get a job. So it was, my parents, they expected the best from us, or at least to put always our best foot forward and always, so like my parents expected us to get good grades and to put in the work to get good grades. And same thing with sports, put in the effort. My dad was my softball coach, and I had a really amazing coach in high school that was really tough, but we got results in our state softball, championship we won and whatnot. So I think just between playing sports, having three sports, a travel sport, having a job, and going to school in high school, I think that really allowed for me to create the discipline and the boundaries needed and know the work that I needed to put in to get the results that I wanted. Um,
So it
so
was
I think
born out
boundaries
of
and hard work.
how you're raised. That, like, are you saying that created a pretty ridiculous work ethic that you were then kind of recorrecting, or is that, am I reading that right?
I think when I first, yeah, so in my first year with Cutco too, like I really, like my first summer, I had four jobs and like I was just a workaholic and, I wanted to
I
make money and I
remember
wanted to
that
save.
because for those of you that don't know, Kristen did start in the Hoosier division, just so we're clear. Okay. But I remember Marcus, your district manager, telling me like you were having this great SC2 push. I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this girl? She's like, dude, she can't even come to alliance meetings. She can't even do demos till after 5 o'clock because she has a. I'm like, what? What? No way.
Yeah. I might have been like Marcus's worst nightmare because I didn't attend advanced training or any of that stuff. Like
Oh,
I
you
just
you
didn't
shook up
PDI, I didn't
every
do anything
rule we had
for
made
like,
for ourselves on what matters. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you go into Cutco and you get into the sales role, which I think a lot of people do. And whether it's the first time they've experienced it or not, it's like I can work as much as I want. And if you're a high achiever and you're the only thing in the way of your success, quote unquote, it's like cool for somebody like you that was like awesome, get out of my way. When did you recognize that as becoming, I don't know if the word issue is the right word, but when did you realize that, oh wait, I'm working at one speed and that might not be the best long-term route?
when I was in a relationship and I realized that my relationships were taking a back seat to my job.
Mm.
And I realized that that needed to shift. So, but I also knew I had to put in the work if I wanted to. So it was also, having a partner that is alongside with you in your journey that supports you is a big thing as well too, that understands your goals and dreams. But in that season that I was in, I was just working too much and our relationship was taking a back seat. And I
Mm.
realized then that I if I ever want to be married or if I ever want to have a family, like I've got to change, this workaholicness in me. And so that was a shift in my mid 20s.
And then what's it fast forward to today? This is over a decade in the process. How are you maintaining that balance today? What are you willing to do, or what's that strategy now that maybe it's like, dude, that's just second nature to me now, but it took a while to learn how to do?
Yeah. I have a very strict schedule, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that looks at my calendar, they're like, oh my gosh, that gives me anxiety. Like I put everything on there. I'm a big, if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. And I'm very regimented. I mean, we can't control time. We can't get more of it. We can't get less of it. The only thing we can control is us within the time that we have allowed,
Hmm.
you know. And when I changed my mind around how we can manage time, and the reality is I can only manage me within time, I started looking at how was my time being used. And I started time blocking the things that were most important to me. So I have a time that I get up every morning. I have a routine in the morning. I have my prayer time, my God time. I have my workout time, and then I have like my mentoring calls, and then I work 8 to 4.
Yep.
And at 4 o'clock, it doesn't matter. I close my computer, and people have asked me like, "How do you get everything done?" I'm like, "I don't."
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I've realized that like that's okay. I'm not going to jeopardize my personal time to work out and do the things that are important to me just for that. Like I need to focus on my time that I have allotted from 8 to 4 to do what I need to do.
It's such a slippery slope to make exceptions too, because then you condition yourself to think that that's okay, and then before you know it, it's been a week since you worked out, or it's been a week since you properly meal prepped or whatever, and then it's the long term of like this isn't sustainable. What do you think most CSPs need to hear when it comes to work life balance? You know, you coach a lot of people in our CSP world. You've got people who are training under you, being led by you as far as becoming a great realtor rep. What do you think most of them need to hear when it comes to this conversation?
Around time.
Yeah, about time management and this idea of work life balance.
I think first of all, it's knowing what your standards are for yourself in your life and in your business. What are your non-negotiables, personally and professionally? Like I have non-negotiables each week for working out and for my walking, and I have non-negotiables for my work as well too. And I think it's knowing what those are and then making sure that you front load your first half of your week to make sure that you do your non-negotiables and you
Mm.
get them done. But you have you cannot measure what you do not track. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, right, if you want to lose weight, what are you going to track? You're going to track what you're eating, you're going to track your exercise. If you're not tracking things in your business, like how are you going to grow? You cannot measure what you do not track. So what are your metrics in your business? What do you need to do each day? And honoring that time block you have for yourself. By honoring your time block, it's like if you want to build muscle, right? You go to a gym, you start with this weight, like you have to keep going to build the muscle. Well, you have a discipline muscle too. And if you're not staying disciplined, if your goal is to make you're going to pop by 10 businesses today and you're going to call 15 real estate offices, if that's what you tell yourself you're going to do it. Even if it's 4:30 and you have two more things to do it, because you are training that muscle. By not doing it, you're making it weak.
Yeah, there's so
Uh,
many parallels between our health and our business, that I feel like when you get really, really great at the health side of it, it's so much easier to do the business side of it. When was your first year that you transitioned from DM to was it? Did you go right into realtor rep CGC, or was there a period
I
of where you did? Okay,
I,
what
I
was that?
I did. I had a shoulder surgery right at
Mhm.
the end of my DM summer. So I couldn't really drive. I wasn't supposed to be, but
Yeah.
so I did a short season of some fairs and shows and residential stuff to supplement and feed into. And then once the gifting side of things really took off and it was taking more of my time, I took my foot off the pedal of the fairs and shows and the residential stuff.
What was the hardest thing to learn? Maybe it was a mindset shift since you were in management for so long that was different, or maybe because when you did sell it was residentially. What was the hardest thing to learn moving into CGC?
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Mm.
You're coming off, even with being in management, or if you're coming from fairs and shows, like you get immediate results. You get immediate results from a training class. You get immediate results from a fair and show. You are planting seeds. You are laying a foundation. And if you don't have a strong foundation, your house is going to fall. You got to plant the seeds, you got to water it, you got to fertilize it for it to grow properly. You are building a business. You got to do things the right way and build it. Because if you don't, you're going to have setbacks. So, not to expect immediate results, but know this is a building process. You will get results along the way, but make sure you celebrate your small wins as much as you do your big ones, because those small wins is what's going to keep you going and create the habits that you need for success.
Yeah, that microwave versus crock pot analogy is one that I feel like I probably overuse, but it fits so well. with this of we're used to in for our residential sales reps, it's a 45-minute sales cycle.
Right.
And for CGC, what's normal? I mean, obviously you've got like maybe you speak at a team meeting, you get a business card, you set up a meeting, but from the time that like, okay, this person, I'm sitting down with meet with them face to face or on Zoom for the first time to when they actually make that purchase, is that still the same mentality or can it be a few weeks? Can it be a few days before it locks in?
It can. It depends on a couple of factors. It depends on, if it's a real estate agent or a mortgage or a loan officer. It depends on, how many do they have under contract and in escrow right now? What's their pipeline look like? Are they new? Are they seasoned? I mean, you can never judge a book by its cover. I know for me, if I meet with a brand new agent, I'm closing an average of 30% of them. So like for me, I'm going to take that gamble. I know some people
Yep.
won't take that gamble, but I would rather build that relationship with someone that's new and be that person they think of when it comes to gifts. So when they are ready, they remember that person took the time to meet with me even when I was new. So sometimes that sales cycle, some of my top clients were brand new agents when I met them, brand new. And like one of them right now is hands down in my top five.
It's so awesome that you say that because I feel like once somebody makes the transition from like, okay, am I a rep? Am I a branch? Am I a district? And then they go, you know what? I'm going the CSP route, not even CGC. They fall into this trap of like, okay, now that I'm a CSP, I have to do only the efficient things. I can only do service events. I'm not driving to do a service call. I can only work key and crown events. I'm not going to go find traditional ones to do. Or CGC, I'm not going to go meet with a brand new realtor who only sold 4 homes already or whatever the case may be. To hear that you at the time of your business still value building those relationships is so important for probably everybody, but primarily those that are just now making this a career to know that, dude, don't forget what got you there. It depends on if you're trading out that time for organizing your leads, it's probably a pretty good trade-off, right? Is there anything else that you struggled to get the grasp on initially, whether was it team meetings or that sales cycle or one-on-ones, being a vendor in an event, the schedule being different, phoning, was there anything there that was like, if I could give somebody advice on if you struggle with blank, don't worry. That's hard to get used to. What is it?
Working with Trent Booth and the Veritas Leadership Group over the last decade has unlocked things within me that I never knew existed until they were coached out of me. If you're listening and you feel stuck or like you have another gear that you're having a hard time getting to, Trent's offering a free intro call to any of our listeners. I love Veritas because it's an amazing combo of mentoring and coaching. I get what I need when I need it most. It's also a flat monthly rate, which is awesome for anyone looking to give it a shot with no contract and no long-term commitment. Schedule a call with Trent today by going to linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the 2 E's.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will say you will perform at the level of preparation that you have. And that is something that has always been ingrained in me. And I remember Remington at the time when he was mentoring me, one of the things he said to me, he goes, Kristen, you need to be script practicing at least an hour every day. He goes, it's different. And I remember him telling me this. He goes, you are not selling knives. You are selling branding. The knives are the vehicle. He goes, and at some point it will click. He goes, I'm going to tell you right now, you might think it's clicking, but it's not clicking right now. It may take a year, it could be 2, could be 3, could be 4 before it really clicks. But when it clicks, you're going to know because your business is going to shift. And I remember when it clicked for me because I went from selling 80 to 125 to 220 to 225. And all of a sudden 500, 550, 750. And
because I think as a rep, we're trained like the product sells itself. And it's almost like you're shifting to where the knife isn't the product. It's the idea of the value of branding for them that they're probably not doing at the level they could. And then it's like, oh, by the way, how awesome is it that I actually can get your clients a great product that is going to create repeat business for you? So man, that would be a hard shift because usually you're like, what do you mean? I cut the penny. Why aren't you buying anything?
Yeah. Right. I did this. Yeah.
And it feels like, I'm sure at first it feels like wrong to not focus on Cutco. Like, it's like, I feel guilty not banking on this, but really, I mean, that's great. By the way, shout out Remington, friend of the show. Hello. what's the biggest challenge? Like real estate today, correct me if I'm wrong. The perception at least is, oh my gosh, rates are sky high. We came out of a 2021, 2022 bubble of like, holy cow, if you want to buy or sell a house, awesome. Now it feels like inventory is low, but if you want to sell your house, it's still hard because rates are high. It feels like we're in this weird climate within real estate, at least from my perspective as a homeowner. What what do you think is the biggest challenge today in your business with selling to that community with the current climate that they are in?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's very important for you to know what's going on in the industry that you're working in. So even if you're specializing in roofers, you got to know what's going on in the roofing industry. So whatever niche you're focused on, and I want to encourage anyone that's listening to this, don't try to do all these different industries. Focus on one, get good at it, go to another industry. Right? Get
And what do you
really
mean by that
good.
is like, it might all be real estate, but there's a lot of different channels within real estate. So you brought up roof, like, hey, if you want to focus on, if roofing is the biggest area of opportunity in your territory that nobody has connected with yet, go all in on that niche.
Correct. Yes. Because once you get good at that, and first of all, you're going to organically, being in the real estate industry, there are tons and tons of other industries that you're going to organically get connected to and network with, that you're going to be able to help and serve with their gifting needs. Like, it's just going to happen. But get really good, understand the industry that you're working in, and immerse yourself in the knowledge. I am constantly, every week, I'm in meetings, I'm at networking events, and I'm learning on what's going on. I'm hearing from other people what's going on. I'm paying attention to what NAR puts out, you know. So the market that we're in, I remember when I started working with real estate agents 10 years ago, it was a slower market like what we're in now. Like, it was a healthy competitive market. And anyone that's been in the industry a while will tell you, like, it's it's a you have negotiation power. You know, when I first started, things were sitting on the market longer. It was definitely so. Where we're at right now, and every market's different, first of all. Every state's different, every city's different. Like, they are all different. Um, and there are people that are having their best years ever. There
Right.
are people that are having terrible years. There are people that are having mediocre years. Like, I mean, it just depends. It's the cycle of people buying and selling. But something that I was reading a study a couple months ago, and it was talking about the average person now is staying in their home 12 years. So what does that mean for someone that's a real estate agent or a loan officer? That means they have to stay top of mind to that client that much longer now. And that's why our product is so much more important, because now it's in their hands all the time being used, whereas the average time was 5 to 7 years. It's a
Right.
lot more now. So that's a
Oh my
good
gosh,
investment.
but you're right. It's like when you're all in on that industry and you want to be an expert in the industry, not just in your product or what you're selling. You like, for me, when I'm on it, I see a stat like that and I'm like, okay, how can I use this stat to authentically improve our position within, and it's not a, it's not like you can teach your mentees like, this happens, do this, but it's like, if you're all in on being knowledgeable, your goal, I'm sure, is I want to know more about the industry than the realtors I'm working with do. Like, I want to be viewed, not just viewed as, I want to be an expert
Yeah.
at it. Is there anything that as you've been doing that, are there any hacks that you'd recommend to people who are looking to do that within CGC? Is it any specific podcasts, books, any ways to connect with people in their territories that you're like, this is the resources to use?
First of all, I would definitely read, and I remember Remington sharing this with me too. MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That's a good book to read. Shift is a good book to read. And Seven Levels of Communication by Michael Mayer is a good book to read. Those were three books that I was recommended when I first started working in the real estate realm that I needed to read to understand. Now, as far as podcast, I would follow your local associations. First of all, get involved with your associations. I would even get involved with your chambers. I would get involved with your Women's Council of Realtors. Anything that's like that, and be present, be everywhere, learn, sit in there, ask questions, listen in meetings to what they are saying. I get emails from NAR. Remington's got a great podcast as well from real producers. Get involved with your real producers, or at least, pay attention to what's being written in those articles, talk to people, ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. If I
Yeah.
don't understand something or if I want more information, I just ask. Because listen, they all like to talk. So
Yeah.
they're gonna give you their
If
opinion.
I'm them, I love when people ask me questions because then I don't have to prepare. It's like, hey, you tell me what you need. I was just reading Remington's book, Agent Allies, and one of the things he said was, yeah, I would do my 8-minute Cutco pitch, and then I wouldn't leave. I would stay and sit in the back of the meeting and learn. It's like it's like if I'm running that office and I see that buy-in, I'm like, I want this guy or girl back. I want them to come. They're setting a great example. Um, any mistakes that you see? I find for me when I'm transitioning somebody from student to CSP, they look at my top performing CSPs and they're well established and they're like, okay, I want to model my business after theirs, but they're trying to model the business after the decade long work and they didn't get to see like what it looked like 10 years ago. What are the biggest mistakes you see people that are new into the space make, and how would you encourage them to avoid it?
Yeah, it's like you're a small child. You want to run before you can even crawl.
Yeah.
Um, I think the baby analogy is a perfect one there. Um, I think a lot of people, again, it's the whole we're selling Cutco, getting that mind shift from and really understanding the value of what we do. So I see a lot of mistakes that people make is they're working too hard to sell them Cutco versus selling them what it does for their brand and their business long term. Um, so I think that's a big mistake. I don't know that I would call this a mistake, but this is a big fear that I see, especially people coming into the real estate side of things. And everyone's like, oh, that won't be me. I won't have a problem picking up the phone and calling people or popping into an office. Yes, you will. You're going to have a fear. And it happens. I think I can count on one hand in my 10 years how many people did not have a fear. Like it's a common thing.
And
So
by the way, in my experience, the people that don't have any fear, that doesn't equal success. In
yeah.
fact, a lot of times for me, it actually equals them leaving very quickly because they're being so unrealistic that when they hit a roadblock, it's like, I've never sucked at anything before in my entire life. What does this mean? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. 100%. And it's a hard thing, but when someone new comes to our team, I just tell them, I go, hey, I want you to take everything and just wipe everything you know and learn essentially when it's coming to this. You're a brand new baby rep. You know nothing about this side of things. Like just you're a brand new rep. You're starting a brand new job. You're in training. You know nothing. And I go, I just want to encourage you. That's the mindset I want you to have. Be a sponge. And I'm like, you're probably like, wow, this is like training day one when I learned how. But it is. And because you're learning new systems, you're learning new pitches, and you don't want to go up and pitch in front of a group with notes or a manual. You want to be prepared. You want to be professional. I see a lot of people just not take the time to really prepare. They think they're going to have it because they know how to sell Cutco. And a mistake that I made for many years, I just thought, oh man, people will run out of gifts and they'll just call me and order more. That's not how that works. I mean,
Dude,
you'll have
everything's the same. I got reps on my team right now that send out an email for the first time and they're like, oh, can't wait for these replies to come in. I'm like, well, dude, grab a chair.
grab it.
grab a chair. It's gonna take a while. You mentioned a leap you made at some point from 250 to 500. And I think anybody that gets up to that 500 plus, that rare air, they can usually, it's not like 50K, 100K, 50K, 75. It's usually what you're describing. Like there's just a year in place that something happened. What I know you started to talk about a little bit was when you said Remington said it would click and you were like, I'm selling branding, not knives. What else happened there? Whether it was your personal life, something you did in preparation, something that changed within you out of the business, or maybe it was a strategy or something you started like taking more seriously, like marketing or something. What else changed to cause that leap that year? Because I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast, that's where they are.
Mm.
They've experienced success at a high level. Maybe they're starting to, or they have eclipsed that 6-figure income after expenses, and they feel good, or they've been there for a long time and they're like, dude, I don't know how to make that leap. What
Yeah.
was it for you?
There's a couple things. One, I went through a divorce and a separation, And I didn't realize, I just had this conversation with a woman yesterday. She's going through a divorce, and she's worried about our finances. And I remember being incredibly worried. How am I going to pay for my house? How am I going to pay for my car? How am I going to pay for my insurance? And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I realized it was more important now more than ever that I needed to believe in me. And, other people believed in me, but like, it wasn't, I needed that confidence for myself. And so I had to create it when I didn't exactly have it.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that I was being held back. Like I didn't see it. But I wasn't being completely who I was and true to myself. And the minute I had that freedom to myself again to be me, like things just were different. And that was a lesson I learned in general. Just always be authentically you and who you are, and the right people will always be around. So that was a big shift for me. And I knew I had to sink or swim as well. So I was like, time to sink. I'm either sinking or I'm swimming, and I'm swimming. Like I'm gonna make it. I'd say another shift for me was I remember who it was. I'm not gonna say who it was, but I remember one of my clients saying on the phone to me, Kristen, I already gave them a knife, so I gave them a gift card for their next gift. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong here? I was like, I've got to create systems for them in their business. So
Yeah.
I started crafting out closing gift systems and referral gift systems and employee systems. So we started creating systems, and now that's a part of our one-on-one pitch, which is what a lot of people now utilize in their business as well. Because if you don't create a system for them, they're not going to do it. And what's going to happen is they're just going to be randomly giving people gifts. And before you know it, oh, I already gave them knives. Now I got to give them something else. Or they're not going to remember what they gave people. And then it's oh crap, what do I get? I can't remember. So I'm just going to do something else.
Yeah, you really are. It sounds like once you were like, hey, I'm educating them on how to brand. I'm not making a sale. Now it's like, hey, I get to create the narrative there while like obviously in our business, this is a given, but in a lot of sales, it's not. There's the value for your client there that you really are concerned with of like, I don't just want them to buy. I want them to understand how this is best for them and for their clients.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a shift too in your mind. It's, you're not a salesperson, and I made the shift from I need to do my fiduciary duty and do what's best for them. I will never just sell people something because and push them. Like I want them to become, because if you push them into a sale, they're going to be the first one to get out of it. So I always want people to feel comfortable with what they're doing and be excited about what they're doing. I like a financial advisor, right? They have a fiduciary duty. I treat my business and with my clients the same way. Like I have a fiduciary duty to do what's best for them in their business. And if I know they can't afford something right now, then we're going to wait until the time is right. So I really put on the consultative hat and really position myself in
Dude,
that
you're
manner.
so right. I mean, I have a very good relationship with my financial advisor, and I don't think I've ever felt like he's sold me on any of the decisions I've made. I feel like he always comes back with questions and then education, and then, hey, if you want to do something based on this new knowledge, let me know. And that's why I've stuck with him for so long, is because there's that trust there.
If you're still tracking and categorizing all your own expenses, I have a message from your CPA. Stop. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are your goals include growing your sales. And one way to do that is delegating admin responsibilities by trading time for money. Rising Stock and MyBooks.pro is exactly what you need. Rising Stock is an all-encompassing financial tracking and coaching program where MyBooks.pro is exactly what it sounds like. They just do your books. You can choose to just have them track your expenses or take advantage of everything they have to offer. Do your business and your CPA a favor by scheduling a free intro call today at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's.
Because I do feel like he empowers me to decide what's best, which is pretty much exactly what you're describing. I do want to ask, oftentimes I try to find the origin of the greatness a lot of our top CSPs have. And you talked a little bit about dad with coaching and things like that when you were young. I've been told that parents in your hometown of Hobstadt, Indiana, put something different in their baby bottles than most of the rest of the country. So I just thought, this might be where this greatness stems from. Can you tell me about this magic baby formula? What's going on here?
We can't bottle it and sell it. I'm sorry. It's go down there, have a baby down there, and you'll figure it out, I guess.
That's protected Secret Service information. Got it. Okay, good. On a serious note, you have taken personal growth really, really seriously over this. I've watched this with you, even when you were new rep, new DM. Like I felt like this was something that you were always excited about. And a lot of people, they get excited about it and then they might lose it or lose interest or whatever. And I feel like yours has really gotten even deeper over the years. So what sparked that? What's caused you to maintain a commitment to that? And then what's come from that pursuit of your own personal growth?
There's a couple things to that. Someone said to me one time, everything rises and falls with leadership. And that really stuck with me. And, the kind of leader that I am to my family, to my friends, to our team, to our staff. And I fail. There are times where I'm like, ooh, I wasn't being the best leader there. And it's like, my business coach says to me, when I came to him, I remember this was a year and a half ago, and I came to him with this situation. I'm like, this person knows the expectations. Like, how could they do this? And he goes, Kristen, what did you do wrong here? What DNA do you have in this? He goes, I want you to draw the circle around yourself and ask yourself, what could you have done differently to yield different results here? And he goes, what we're going to work on here, he goes, it's going to start by drawing the circle around yourself every single day. Everything that happens, good, bad, whatever it is, he goes, draw the circle around yourself because you have some DNA in it somewhere, and we're going to work on how you lead you. And the level that you lead yourself is how you're going to lead other people. And I really took that to heart. And whenever something arises, even if we have a problem or something goes wrong, I'm like, all right, what could we have done to prevent this problem? How can we learn from this? Let's draw the circle right here. Yes, we can't control that. Like we just had a situation, like, ladies, we can't control, it's an act of God, the weather, but what could we have done to prevent that, to possibly get product to this client sooner? And it's like having that mindset around everything. Like, so my coach had a big impact there.
Yeah.
On that. And then for me, when I was younger, and in high school, I actually struggled with like suicidal thoughts when I was in high school. And, for me, that's always been something very near and dear to my heart is, the rates that we have right now that are just constantly climbing with suicide and everything. I've wanted to, and it's a matter of time when, but I intend this will be part of our nonprofit with Best Day of My Life, but really speak into grade school, middle school, and high school about you are loved and your life is worthy. And, I feel that personal growth for me and being able to pour back into our kids and bring somehow that into the school system to help with their mindset and their leadership and their growth is something I want to be doing. So I know I need to be a better leader and constantly growing myself, so I can also pour back into them.
And I think timing wise, this is an amazing time for that because I've experienced it on the manager level where these students that have come out of being a part of the education system during COVID we don't even know long-term all the effects, but specifically on this topic, shutting everybody into their homes for as long as we ended up doing really had some horrific, unrealized reactions and circumstances that ended up happening afterwards that I think there's a huge need for what you're talking about. So thank God for you and for how you want to use that platform. That's awesome. I love that I love the concept of it, but the fact that you're using it to be able to create other opportunities for people to get help is awesome. And then something else you said about your coach, I love how they responded to you. I don't want to say blaming someone else, but complaining about something. It was like, hey, where's your part in this? It reminds me of a John Berghoff quote that ever since I've heard it, I think about it on a daily basis. If I can't admit I'm part of the problem, I don't get to be part of the solution. Mm. And it's just so true. Like I could focus on everybody else's 99% of their issues, but if I don't own my 1%, right, then it's not gonna matter anyway. What's something that I should have asked you today And if it takes you a second to think about it, or if there's like multiple answers, okay, what's something I should have asked you today that you feel would help our team most?
So I spoke on this at the summit we just had.
Mhm.
And, they'd given me a topic initially to talk about. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I talk about something different this year? And they're like, yeah, what do you want to talk about? And I shared my topic. And so I, whenever the talks come out from the summit, I'd encourage each and every person listening to this to go take a listen to it. It's about life and it's about business and it's the way forward, defining you in your personal and professional life. And I think a lot of times us as entrepreneurs, we don't take enough time, and I'm an entrepreneur myself, right? We don't take enough time to really slow down and evaluate us and our lives and where we are. And, in order to get to where you're going and grow the way you want to grow, you got to know where you're at right now. And so in that talk, we went through the 5 key areas in our personal life and the 5 key areas in our business, and like really bringing awareness around where you are in each of those areas, so you can truly grow. And I think that's a very important thing. Like, can you do that every year? Can you do it quarterly? Can you do it midway through the year and just really see your progression? And my coach had done this exercise with me when we first started coaching 2.5 years ago, and like to see the growth that I've had over those 2.5 years, because awareness is transformational. Again, you cannot, and that's so key. So I want to encourage everyone to listen to that. And I think across the board, we just don't take enough time to slow down and spend time on ourselves. And that's an important thing to do.
What where can we find the talk from? It was this Big Pin Summit, I'm assuming, that just happened. Probably Vector Connect. I can get info there.
Yeah, I would assume. I think they said the talk should be out this
Cool.
week, not next week.
Awesome. I'll make a note.
It's called The Path Forward.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, we're in a really, really, really unique situation in Cutco, because no one's ever required to give back, but most leaders do. We all have busy lives. In fact, I think our text chain to get this scheduled should go into the scheduling Hall of Fame. It was awesome. If anybody's ever like, no, they're just too busy, I'm like, let me show you how to get this done. So I've been extremely thankful for your friendship over the years. And what I would say I'm even more thankful for recently is your leadership. You've influenced so many people within our region, but specifically in my division over the years, and your patience with many of them has really just spoke volumes about your growth. And I think your pursuit of like excellence within your role, while learning how to not bend or flex the important things to you outside of the business, has continued to inspire others to do the same. And that's so great for us to have. I'm so thankful for your example that you set for everybody that gets to be around you. It's just really, truly awesome to watch your growth over the years. It's been awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you enjoyed today, be sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss the 15 Minutes of Flames version of this episode with just the snippets to review. And our next 60 Minutes of Fire. Do not miss our upcoming interviews with Brian Carter, Matt Foss, Patton Sides, Marissa Mayer. They're going to be great. Thank you again, Kristen, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. And for some of you watching, I want to remind you that all resources from today can be found at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the EE. If you want to be a member of our live Zoom audience for one of our upcoming shows, email bwiggins@vectormarketing.com. That's BWIGGINS@vectormarketing.com. If you loved what you heard today, I'd be honored if you followed, subscribed, or even rated us on whatever platform you use to find your 60 Minutes of Fire. We'll see you next time.